Hello.
Hello there, is that Nick Van Gelder?
Yep, speaking.
Hi, it's DJ Gloss here from Sound Fusion Radio. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Good. Have I caught you at a good time?
Yeah, it's fine.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for agreeing to do an interview with us. That's really lovely of you. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks for inviting me.
No problem at all. Whereabouts are you? It's a London number, so I guess you're in town somewhere.
Yeah, I'm in Archway.
Ah, right. Wow. Yeah.
Not London.
Very nice too. So, do you mind if I start firing a few questions at you? Is that okay?
That's fine, yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, I was going to go back actually to the really early days of how you and music kind of collided in life, and the early days with the Osric Tentacles.
I'm going back that far. I don't remember a thing. It came about from my school band days, really. And Rolly Wynn was the bass player in my school band, and his brother Eddie, basically the three of us and some other people they lived in Wimbledon. We kind of started that off after school, basically.
Wow.
So that was Rolly and his big brother.
Wow, there you go. It's an interesting name. How did that come about?
It's just Eddie Wynn's warped mind, really. Nothing to do with me. Just a sort of nonsense thing, really. Yeah.
I wondered if it was something like that. I read in your bio that you've got quite a number of varied but very famous influences musically, and I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about your musical influences when you were younger, so to speak.
Okay. Well, I think obviously really young and growing up in the 70s, even being born in the 60s, it was all Beatles and Stones and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And Jimi Hendrix and stuff. And then I think probably at school as well, someone introduced me to, a friend of mine's dad had Average White Band live album. And it sort of showed me a different path from pop groups. So that was a kind of starting point, really, there of more, listening to more groovier music.
Yeah.
And then there was all Earth, Wind and Fire, Ronnie Laws, Quincy Jones. It was all sort of 80s.
Yes. Yeah.
80s influences started coming in.
Yeah, because it talks about there being these are quite diverse. Sort of people like Phil Collins, Sly Dunbar, and Billy Cobham. Billy Cobham as a drummer, and Phil Collins as a drummer, Sly Dunbar as a drummer. I understand it, but they're very big opposite ends of the drumming spectrum as far as it goes. And I was just really interested in why you picked each one individually.
Well, Phil Collins, he's just really fantastic drummer. Love him or hate him. I think he's one of the best drummers to come out of here ever. And obviously, he was a prominent person in the 80s, in the formative years.
Definitely.
And same with Sly Dunbar and all the Grace Jones, Pull Up to the Bumper. It was a very 80s kind of sound, and it was all in the charts, so it wasn't.
Back in the 80s, there wasn't much reggae that Sly Dunbar and Robbie Shakespeare as a sort of duo didn't appear on, really, was there?
You couldn't avoid it, really, and they're sort of opposite ends of the scale, but it's all grooving, really.
Absolutely,
all,
yeah. I fully agree.
I can't remember who the third person I said was, out of those you said.
Well, the last one was Billy Cobham, who we hadn't covered, but Billy for me, probably at that time in the 80s was the best fusion drummer, on the planet as far as I was concerned. Well, especially having lived back then and remembering, Billy Cobham in my younger years, I absolutely adored what he did.
I love all of those cats from that era, actually. The fusion ones. Lenny White was a really amazing, strong influence.
Yes.
Alphonse Mouzon, he was in Weather Report.
Yeah.
Narada Walden. All of them, it was a good... I'm really glad I grew up in that time when all that kind of crazy fusion, raising the bar stuff kind of happened. Tony Williams, they're all...
yeah,
incredible players, really.
Well, absolutely right. And it was an incredible time for music, late 70s, early 80s. I think, probably will never be repeated in quite the same way, especially the way that the music industry's changed since, if you know what I mean. Very much so. Yeah. So joining Sandals in 1990, which put you on tour in the UK and Europe, and eventually led to you sort of working with Jamiroquai. Can you tell us about that sort of interesting area of your career?
Yeah, well, that was I left the Osric Tentacles and did some other projects, similar thing, and then I actually kind of quit and got a day job in the animation painting department. And then sort of regrouped, and it was that time of Young Disciples just coming out, apparently nothing, and Wildcat Will was a really close friend of mine, another school friend actually. He was drumming in the Sandals. I was actually sort of taught him a bit of drums to get him started, and they needed a guitarist because I also love playing guitar.
Yes.
So I think I quit my job and just that was my first sort of paid sessions on Acid Jazz Records for the Sandals. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And as guitarist, and that was how that came about, really.
Wow. And sort of
they weren't sort of musicians, the Sandals. They were like into poetry and art and using samples. They were creating some really cool stuff, but they needed a bit of guidance, musician-wise. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, instrumentally, there's not much you don't play, is there, really, Nick? I mean, you pretty much cover just about everything, I think.
Yeah, I don't blow things.
Well, yeah, apart from the brass section. You don't blow things, but you play things. Yeah.
It's them.
Wonderful. And then meeting up with Jamiroquai, how did that come about?
Well, I was just in the Acid Jazz office. He'd already recorded the When You're Gonna Learn demo version with all the brand new heavies, and wanted to put a live. He was really inspired by the heavies, and wanted to put a similar live. Wanted to get his live side together. And it was Will again, Wildcat Will, who actually physically introduced us. Called me best drummer in the universe, which probably helped.
Oh, that's always good. Yeah,
it's always good. Yeah. And at the time, I'd heard the record, but I hadn't met Jay, and I was, we all thought it was a woman singing, black woman. So that was quite a shocker.
Very
and at
much.
the time, I was like, yeah, cool, but I'd rather be in the Young Disciples, play with Carleen and people. But I was very glad it all happened. Yeah, I had to make a choice in the end between Sandals and that. And obviously drumming and the sort of potential of Jamiroquai was, undeniable. So
yeah, that kind of swung it, did it for you, and sent you off in the Jamiroquai direction, which obviously signing with Sony. And then sort of projects like Emergency on Planet Earth. I mean, they weren't small tunes by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, we didn't, who knew at the time, but JK probably knew.
Yeah, so I mean, your bio talks of sort of hectic tour schedules and massive sort of worldwide promotions and things like that. And wondered if you could share some of that with us.
I'm not sure what that. I mean, Jamiroquai-wise, I just did the Emergency on Planet Earth tour. That was actually my only real proper tour, I'd say. I mean, I've done a lot of travelling with all kinds of different bands. But in terms of a sort of world tour, that was probably the only one, really. But I've been with other bands. I've been toured with the Brand New Heavies. Playing percussion, because Jan Kincaid used to come up from behind the kit and sing back in the day, and the percussionist would go on the kit. So that was a really fun tour of all over Europe and Japan, South Korea, And but yeah, I've been travelling quite a bit with this other band, Dub Colossus, more recently. Not that recently, but more recently than then. And that's been fantastic, playing the WOMAD festivals in Australia, New Zealand.
Wow.
And I think we played in, we played in India. So there's been, if not major tours, there's been a lot of, incognito as well last year. We did some great travelling.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that as well, and also you had some work with Soul to Soul at one point, didn't you, as well? So I saw that written on your bio there. Yeah, I mean Incognito, and of late, obviously, I mean you've got a tune there that's on the latest album as well, haven't you?
Yeah, fortunately, that was.
Which is the
couple of tunes on there.
Yeah, Silver Shadow is one of the ones that you'd sent through to us, which is on the Amplified Soul album, and originally by Atlantic Star. Great track. I mean, perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about behind that and how you were involved in that one.
Well, I think obviously I've known the Incog lot for years. I'm good friends with Matt Cooper, the keyboard player extraordinaire.
Yes, yeah.
Basically, they called me to do a few dep dates with the band because Francesco, the main drummer, had opportunity to work on the Thriller tour, not to turn down. So I did some live stuff with them, and then they were actually recording the album at that time. And I think Bluey just called me. Do I want to come in and record that track with them?
It's a great track and a great version. Very much enjoyed.
It's a fantastic track, and I've got to say I didn't know it before at all. Which is a bit shameful.
Well, I'm surprised because of the genres, but I mean Atlantic Star, Silver Shadow. I mean it's. I guess it's more sort of internal to the soul circuit, and certainly I think Incog and yourself have done a really lovely cover of it. I mean, you've taken it to a different level as well, which is really nice.
It's I'm proud of that, really. It was a great beat originally on the track to adapt to a drum kick. It's obviously quite electro beat.
Absolutely.
It was really just, it was a great track to play on, really, and adapt that groove.
Yeah, because you've been doing quite a lot of collaborations of late. I mean, but you've also sort of worked with people like Omar and Vanessa Simon, and people like that. I saw from your bio. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit more about the sort of the other collaborations you've had, and a little bit more about Incog and a little bit more about the brand new heavies. That'd be wonderful.
I think the important collaboration is Akimbo, which is myself and Simon Bartholomew from the Heavies.
Yeah.
So we put an album out on Acid Jazz label in '96 or something, '98. Anyway, that kind of period.
Yes. Yeah.
And we've just recorded the follow-up album. Actually recorded it last year now. So we reckon that's probably the longest gap between albums of any band, possibly.
You still got Nick Seymour on the bass there?
Yeah, Nick Seymour's he's the bass man, yeah. And it's a beautiful thing, we went, actually Simon booked the studio that he'd just seen it in a music magazine, Music Week or something. And it turned out it was Bluey's place.
Wow.
Which we didn't know at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd completely forgotten, but Kofi Kari, who's an amazing percussionist friend, and he's in Akimbo, he said, we recorded with Jamiroquai in that studio. And I was like, really?
Wow.
But yeah, we did Revolution and 93. I can't remember what other tracks we did, but there was about 3 or 4 of the tracks off Emergency done in the same studio. And it was nice. So me and Nick and Simon, we we'd accumulated quite a few little, just sort of, just demos, dictaphone stuff of jamming, and we went in the studio in 3 days. We knocked out 15 backing tracks.
Wonderful.
And all organically, which was a really nice change, just to actually, not have click tracks and and that kind of modern music production that we all love as well.
Yes.
It's nice to just get back to just jam it out, really. It's come out really great. So just waiting for time now to get it finished off.
What title's that going to be released under, Nick? What's that coming out as?
We haven't got the title yet.
Okey-dokey. And he's not in any of these tunes that you've sent us as yet. I've got no tasters of it, but I'm assuming anyway.
Well, I sent one, I think. You got the...
I got the new and unreleased.
Bite the Bullet.
Yeah, Bite the Bullet. Actually, yeah. Now that kind of said a little bit of sort of Curtis / Billy Cobham-y kind of feel to it for me. I thought it was a great tune. Loved it to bits. Wow. So if that's a sample of it, really looking forward to that coming out. That'll be fantastic. Yeah,
and that one. The reason that we've still got a lot of vocals and horns to record, but that one was a completely live take, including the vocal, which I think is quite a rare thing these days.
Absolutely, and all in one. That's that's. I haven't heard artists talk of that for quite some time, to be honest. So that's brilliant. That's wonderful. There was another album that you sent us that came under the name Choose Music, which I also thought was absolutely fantastic. I loved just about everything on the album. Could you tell us a little bit about that one?
That's my first album under my name.
Mm.
I think 2008 now. It's quite a while back. It was out on BBE Records. Not a lot of people know about it, but a really good reaction from those who got hold of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think it needs playing. I think there's some great tracks on there. I think we need to get some of them into our rotation and actually, get some of our sort of jazz funk and acid jazz connoisseurs that listen to Sound Fusion Radio to have a listen to it, because I love the genre myself, and I wasn't aware of this until you sent it through. So, I think it's really got something going on there. I mean, no friend of mine has. I think it's got a real kind of Brit funky kind of feel to it. It's got that sort of very sort of solid kind of Brit funk feel to it, which I thought was absolutely wonderful. And I just wanted to sort of ask you a little bit about that album, really, and get a bit of a feel for it. But if it's one that we can play and get out there, I'm all for it. That's wonderful. That's
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the first one where I did all the sort of played everything except the horns. Did all the production, artwork, everything.
So that's you on the keyboards vocals. And you on the drums and you on the bass and guitar and everything. Wow.
Yeah, because I just love to do it, really. It's
wow.
like, I know all the cats to ask, but it's, and it's, you can't beat collaborating, but it's also nice to just, if you want something done, do it yourself. And, I can be a bit of a control freak with other people, so if I just do it myself, I can only just tell myself what to do.
Well, I listened to it today, and although it's been around for 6 years, I think it's got a great, now's a great time for an album with that kind of content. I've read other submissions of sort of more on the sort of jazz funk tip, like this one, and it's really very popular amongst people at the moment. They seem to be really going for that kind of jazz funk edge and the feel of the kind of tunes you've got on that album, I think fit that really well. So I was loving that. And also, is it Groovitas?
Groovitas.
Groovitas. Yeah. I wasn't quite sure how to say it exactly, but it's a bit more laid back at the beginning, but then gets faster as the album goes on. Is that intentional?
Yeah, that's exactly right, really. I mean, it's always a bit of a puzzle, the running order for an album. So with that one, I think it was just so it sort of gradually sped up, ease into it, kind of thing. I'm still not sure if it's the right order. I think there's no magic formula. Some people say you should put your hit first.
It's actually last on. The title track's last on that one, isn't
softly.
it? Mm-hmm.
Sorry?
The title track's actually last on that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So I'm not sure if you know any formula for that. Let me know, really. But track order's a sort of tricky one.
Well, I didn't. Well, I mean, when I do track orders for shows, if I've got to go in the mix, I tend to step up in BPM. Because that is always a good, when you're mixing tunes, that's always a good thing to do, because you're getting progressively quicker rather than trying to slow things down, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So that works.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
from an album point of view, I wouldn't have too much knowledge of it. But I know that one kind of goes off on quite a journey. It visits places, different places in the world. It feels like when you're listening to the music. Yeah,
well, there's a vocal by a Romanian singer, Monuca, on there, so that brings a different flavour. And there's Hoya Hoye it's actually a traditional Ethiopian song, and three of the musicians from Dub Colossus, the other band I work with, actually live in Addis Ababa, and they were over here, we were touring, and they just did some stuff in the studio. So there's the coda vocal is a singer called Sedenia Marcos, who's fairly well known in Ethiopia. Samuel Yergers, just phenomenal keyboard talent. He did the Moog solo. Wow. I think it was his first go on a proper, not a plug-in synth as well.
That's wow.
And then there's a third person, Teramaj, and he plays an instrument called Masinko, which is a sort of one-string, sort of biblical era instrument that you play with. I think it's a horsehair string or something.
Wow.
And, so I've just put some effects on that, and it's just giving it a bit of, something different.
Well, it's an amazing
It's easy to get, it's easy to get stuck in our London jazz funk thing, but you sort of go around other parts of the world and they're like, what's wrong with you lot in England? You like all your 70s, stuck in the 70s. So it's just to sort of break out of that a little bit, really.
I think it does it very well. I mean, when you put that one alongside the other album that you sent through, they're definitely in two different places and coming from the same guy. That's a great sort of show of flexibility. But I love on that Groovitas. I just love the kind of journey it seems to go on. It like you say, takes you to different places in the world, and now you've explained why, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So thanks for sharing that. That's wonderful. In your new and unreleased tunes, there's one in there called Jam. And now that's a serious piece of funk. Really, really enjoyed that one. It's got a wonderful sort of funky feel to it.
That's Wanderlush. Really good. They're really good friends of mine. It's Punk Papa, who's, I would actually say, the funkiest bass player I've ever played with, and I've played with all of them pretty much. He's a heavy funk player.
Yes, yeah.
And it's his other better half, Claire, on vocals. And Punk Papa Paulie's produced an album that's coming out soon. I think it's called Music Satisfaction, but it's seriously funky record, really. I think I'm appearing on 3 tracks there, and the rest's very tastefully programmed stuff. We're just bringing that out live as well, so we're playing at the Forum with George Clinton in.
I'll have to have a look at that.
It's a great band, and it's just no frills funk. It's literally, I'm not even drum kit I'm using is just kick drum, snare drum, hi-hat, crash.
Well,
Not even messing with toms or anything extra. Just get to the raw groove, basically.
Well, I mean, on that track, it's really working there. So what else you got coming up then, Nick? What's sort of in the pipeline for, the sort of immediate couple of months?
Well, I'm working on getting some more stuff released. Just finished an album with Celine Fleming, who's a fantastic singer that you may or may not have heard of.
I'm just trying to place her. Yeah.
Yeah, she plays sings with the Fantastics. She sort of first came to note with New Master Sounds in the late 90s.
Wonderful.
On the funk scene. And we've come up with a really nice album. The project's called Lazuli, or Lazuli, however you want to say it. And she's done the vocals, I've done all the music, basically. So it's a much stronger. It's the strongest album I've made vocally, because fantastic vocals, basically. A bit less jazzy than the Groovitas. But yeah, sounding fantastic, really. We're just in final mixing stage of that.
Wonderful. So it won't be long before we're seeing that release. Then that'll be great.
Yeah, and I sent you one of the tracks. It's actually a cover by someone called SPG, and if you know anything about them, because I can't find any information, it was. But it's a very, it's a rare modern soul cover, basically.
I will have to. I have to do some investigation on that one, Nick, because I haven't got the information on that. But I'd like to find out more. That's good. So it's a cover. It's the
one cover. The rest's all original stuff.
Wonderful.
Sort of 50-50. Some of it started from vocal, and I've written music, and other stuff I've vocals been written to the music. So it's a nice. Rather than it's definitely not a featuring anyone. It's a nice collaboration, basically.
Wonderful. There you go.
Yeah, a bit more housey, probably a bit more like Choose Music, a bit more on the housey tip.
Liking that too. I have a house show on a Thursday night, so I get involved quite a lot in the house music as well. So, a lot of this stuff does cross over, with the sort of new disco funk as well, which kind of fits in there quite nicely. Yeah.
I've got other couple of other projects. Stuff pretty much ready to release, just sort of single and EP. One with Pete Simpson. Sings in Sunburst Band, an incredible singer as well. So he's re-vocaled one of the tracks off my first album. And it's a more, I've used a bit stronger beats and stuff, so that's
wonderful.
Forthcoming. And also done some really great work with Linda Muriel, who's another extraordinary talent, incredible singer, and he has a little EP on its way there as well.
Wonderful, excellent. You're extremely busy, which is wonderful. I'm liking the idea of that. That's great, and it's real pleasure to talk to you about the new stuff. I was going to ask you because the listeners are going to want to know more about you, and they're going to want to look you up. And I wondered if you could kind of point them.
I'm single.
I was thinking more from a musical point of view, but they could be interested in that
sorry.
too. You never know. No, I was going to say if you could point them at your social media and your website and places where they can find out more about your tunes and buy your music.
Well, it's the usual. Yeah, Facebook. I don't know that. You just look me up on Google. It's all there. Facebook, SoundCloud, iTunes, Amazon. The usual places.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I haven't got the URLs here, so.
If there's anything else, Nick, that you'd like to say to the listeners, then please feel free to do so now, as you wish.
Well, thank you for listening, and thanks for supporting music. So that's it, really.
Well, that's wonderful. And, it's great to support music. We're loving the music that you've given us so far, which we will play and enjoy very much. And I just want to say thank you very much for spending the time to talk to Sound Fusion Radio this afternoon, and have an absolutely wonderful weekend. You too. Thanks for calling, and look forward to hearing the show. Brilliant. Wonderful. Thanks, Nick. You have a great weekend, and we'll speak soon. Cheers now. Yep. Cheers. Take care. Thanks. Bye. Bye.